Richard, thank you so much for joining me this evening. It's a pleasure to actually see you on my computer screen in front of
Wow.
me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No, that's all right. Now, this is a kind of weird way to start the show, but I've got a confession for you, and I hope you'll forgive me for this confession. But because we're similar in age, I'm just 3 years older than you, and I grew up during, the 70s was all, for me, musically, was all about UK chart music. Then as we got into the 80s, I was like, inverted quotes, hair metal. I was all about the
Right.
Kiss, Judas Priest, Scorpions, Whitesnake, Twisted Sister, all that kind of stuff.
I have a funny story on why I kind of missed that.
Let's start with that then before I get onto my confession. Please,
When
go
I
ahead.
was, it was 1980 something. I was probably 10 or 11 or somewhere around there. And I was
Yeah.
listening to the Kiss record.
Yeah.
And my big brother Robert came home from who is the liquid metal Terminator and
Yeah.
Terminator 2.
Yeah.
That's my brother. He's an actor. He played the liquid metal cop in Terminator 2.
Mhm.
So that character, that person, came home from college and he goes, I'm getting tired of you listening to all that Kiss. This is a band from the UK called The Clash. From now on, you're punk. And so from then on, I was punk and I listened to The Clash.
And that was
And,
it.
and that was it. And
Wow.
all of my big influences came from the punk industrial kind of, underground, the guys that were not on MTV, the guys that were not in the charts. They were all disgruntled, pissed about
Whoa.
the man.
And that was NC Here's Me over here in the UK. And it was all the hair metal and let's party and let's fuck and let's do this, that, and the other.
I wanna rock and roll all
Oh,
night, party every day.
I'm using that as my ringtone now. That's
You
it.
know what I mean? That's all it was.
Yeah, exactly.
They took that formula and just ran it into the ground and just
Yeah.
made it, I'm your cherry pie. Whatever the hell. She's only 17. 17. There's so many amazingly bad. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Oh
I don't
no,
mean
I
I don't mean to
agree.
pick on it, but it was cheesy.
Oh yeah. As much as I love that music and grew up with it, I've got to admit with you, it's full on cheese.
It was cheese.
It was.
It's seriously cheese. I mean, Welcome to the Jungle wasn't. That was legitimate. Like there was a lot of attitude there with Guns N' Roses. And there was the potential of hair, but they kind of, I don't know, they legitimized themselves with like Mr. Brownstone.
Yeah.
They kind of like talked about subject matter that was like a little scary. Like, oh, you're talking about hair? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. You're
Ooh.
not talking about champagne and fast cars. You know what I mean? You know,
Oh yeah.
I most of the bands that I like have this like serious chip on their shoulder and they're pissed and they're talking about the how the man's done, like everyone from U2 to
Yeah.
The Clash, Skinny Puppy,
Yeah.
Ministry. They were like my heroes because they were always sticking it to the man, you know what I mean? They were always
Yeah.
constantly bitching about the way it was and politics and stuff like that. I always love that. Same with like Roger Waters and David Gilmour. The Wall was a huge
Yeah.
record.
Oh God, yeah.
Led Zeppelin was big band for me. Yeah.
I mean, this is what I'd love to chat with you about because again, going back to my confession, and again, please forgive me, Richard. I didn't know about Filter or yourself until last month. I know
Really?
I know there's going to be people listening to this and watching this and going, "What the fuck?" It's like, where have you been? Because I was
Wow.
into that like I said, it was UK chart music all through the 70s. It was, all the hair metal through the 80s. And then with, when that was ousted with all the grunge and all the other different genres of music that came in, I dropped out of music for quite a while and didn't get back into it until probably about 10 years ago, to, be completely honest with you. And then we got sent, because we're lucky enough to be sent all advanced copies of music and so on and so forth. We got sent Face Down by Yourself. Holy fuck, I loved it. And I went,
killer.
Who's Filter? Again, pardon,
Wow.
pardon me. And so then that took me on to like a rabbit hole of Filter and Yourself, which is really good, because I love now, at my advanced age, discovering all this new music. And I think as you get older as well, you become.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah, you sort of, your avenues open, you become more receptive.
Records for you to dive into.
Oh, I know. Isn't it great?
Records, including the Algorithm that's coming out in August 25th.
And we got sent an advanced copy of that, and I've been playing that very loud recently, and we'll get onto that because I love that album as well. It ticks all the boxes. Regular listeners will know, things like, and I'll just mark these off now. The things that I love is it's got to be really good vocals. I hate the shouty vocals that go on, and you've got a great voice, Richard, I've got to say. The guitar sound, the drum sound, the production of it all, the lyrics, again, it ticks everything. I'm going, why have I missed out on this for so long? So it's really, really good.
Well, as we say, welcome to the fold.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Richard, at last. It took me a while, but I'm finally here. So like I said, I went on a deep dive with Filter and Yourself. And I've been loving not just listening to the, the Filter albums, but learning about you as well. And if you don't mind, just, a chat about you before we get onto the new album and everything. You're such an amazing guy. I've been, the stuff I've watched, the interviews with you and read things about you. And you've been so honest with your addictions and this, that, and the other, and your history with Nine Inch Nails and all your other musical history, and how you got I think it was age 9, am I right in saying, with the guitar, and that's how you got into me. I mean, why was it the guitar to begin with? It could have been any instrument, I guess.
It could have been anything, but for some reason the guitar just really, it was visceral. You play it and you scratch the pick right over the strings, and Pete Townsend.
Yeah, oh god, yeah.
Pete Townsend, that's another band, The Who. Just attitude and guitar playing and throwing that thing around, like Keith Richards. Like he brought it. He just fucking had a attitude and brought it. Same with Mick Taylor.
Yeah.
Or Mick Jones. Was it Mick Jones from The Clash?
Oh god, yeah. Going back to The Clash, of course, another great band.
Yeah. London calling.
Yeah.
That will come down. Just attitude.
Did you ever get frustrated with the guitar? I mean, I've spoken previous
I
shows.
Suck at it. I suck at it.
No, I mean, come on, I suck at it because I've had a guitar for like 40 years and never been able to play more than like 2 chords on it. So
I can do a lot of chords, and I can play somewhat of leads, but I really don't. The guitar is just like it's a weapon. You know what I mean? Like it's not, I'm not articulate with it. It's more of a battering ram for me. It's more of a baseball bat. It's not like I'm having a conversation with Mozart with it. Like I'm literally taking a hammer to the piano, and I'm just you know what I mean? Like it's like Joe Strummer said, he's like, I play all 6 strings. I don't play 1 string. I play all 6. Yeah, it's just the means to an end, and the end is like just being aggressive and saying something and having a musical moment that's hopefully really cool and enjoyable for the listener.
Yeah.
And engaging. I like music that engages you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's like one listen to London Calling and you're like, oh my God, that was an amazing song. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm
Uh,
a big cinephile.
Same with like
Uh,
The Unforgettable Fire by U2. You know, just like, what the hell are they doing? You know, The Edge found the digital delay and just used it for every song on that record. And it was so glistening and shimmery and beautiful and amazing. And Danielle Lanois and Brian Eno producing it and just making it sound like this gorgeous cityscape of music, you know, soundscape.
yeah.
You know, I just you know, and yeah, that's what the guitar is for me. It's sound design. It's not just necessarily chords and melody and you know and it's attitude and it doesn't have to be played perfectly. You know,
Yeah,
I
exactly. Yeah,
like
yeah.
the band Polyphony, like I love how avant-garde and crazy they are, but after like 10 minutes, I'm like, dude, I need a chorus. You know what I mean? Like I need a hook. I need someone telling me like, you know, brown sugar. Da, 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 you know, like I need someone telling me what to feel, you know,
I
like
say with music though, isn't it? Like I said, as much as a cinephile that I am as well, I think emotionally nothing triggers so many emotions and so many memories as well at the same time as music. You know, you can listen to a song and it brings back those emotions. It brings back those memories. It could be a song you've not heard from many years ago, and it just like triggers something in your brain.
yeah, totally. Yeah, completely.
And what's it like for you creating these songs that has that effect on
Oh
people?
man. Well, it's awesome. I mean, I cannot lie. It is the greatest honor of my life to be able to be the soundtrack to someone's life.
Hmm.
You know, I've had people like I mean, I had a guy come into the show. We played the show and it was great and people were kind of filing out and I had my backpack and I was leaving the venue and a guy came up to me and he goes, "Hey, are you the singer for Filter?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Hey, listen, I drive a cab and I just saw your name on the marquee and it said Filter." And he's like, "And I just want to tell you something. My father left me in a hotel room when I was 3 years old."
Wow.
And he said, "And for the longest time, I could not get over it. And I was an angry teenager and I was very upset because he abandoned me." He said, "But you know what? I heard the song Take a Picture and it, for some reason, when it got to the, hey, Dad, what do you think about your son now? I know that's not what you were writing it about, but for
Hmm.
some reason, that gave me permission to accept what my dad did and move on with my life so that I could get over it.
Yeah.
Your song brought me that peace." And like for me, like hearing that, like that's it.
Hmm.
I've touched someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have peace in their life when their life had brought when they were feeling so upset for so long, and that's it. The job was done. You know, like I did
Wow.
it. One person came to me and told me, and but I get that a lot. I get that. "Oh, take a picture, saved my life. Thank you so much. I love that song." Or, you know, "Hey man, nice shot, saved my life," or "Your music saved my life." So that's the whole reason. I mean, obviously money and fame and blah blah blah, that
Mhm.
stuff is like that's the for a lot of people that's the attraction, but for
Yeah.
me it's literally because this is what Joe Strummer did to me. Joe Strummer saved my life.
Hmm.
Bono saved my life. The Edge saved my life. Keith Richards saved my life. You know, I was a troubled kid. I had trouble. I have ADHD. I became an alcoholic. And for me, music and my heroes in music have always been there. Like when I feel upset, when I'm overwhelmed, I'll put on music that like
Yeah.
reflects,
Yeah.
like helps me. I'll
Yeah.
put on The Unforgettable Fire by U2 and I'll just be like, there they are. My friends are back and they can help me through this time. And you know, that's the power of music. So that's why I got into it. I didn't get into it because of like, rock and roll. I didn't, you know what I mean? I
Yeah,
didn't,
yeah,
it
yeah,
wasn't necessarily, it wasn't what the hair metal guys were doing. It
yeah.
was, it was what like the more the guys that were had a little bit more conscious, those are the guys that like kind of helped me and made me who I am today, I think.
That's really good to hear, Richard. It really is. And you mentioned two song titles there with Hey Man, Nice Shot and Take a Picture, which again, as I admitted at the start of the show, I wasn't aware of like a month ago. And yeah, obviously now I've listened to them many times and love both of those songs, by the way.
Great. Thank you.
And went to the stories behind them and the I mean, let's start with Hey Man, Nice Shot
Yeah.
because and with it being inspired by our Bud Dwyer, who
Bud Dwyer, yeah.
which
Elvis
I know
Presley
of,
operated.
even over here in the UK, because
Yeah.
again, being a cinephile and horror movies, my main genre. And then I was watching. I mean, this is back in the days when there was the video nasty scare back here in the UK, where shit was banned all the time, and there was things
Mhm.
like Faces. I can't remember if I saw that the footage the first time on Faces of Death or, because it was the Killing of America. It was one or the other. And thinking, holy shit, I've never seen
Yeah.
anything like that. And I can't imagine what it would have been like for anybody watching that live on
Well,
TV.
that actually
America must have
happened.
been, whoa.
That happened a state over in Pennsylvania, and I'm from Ohio. And our social studies class was kind of following it because it was a big,
Mm,
huge deal. This guy embezzled $100 million or blah blah blah. He was
yeah,
supposed,
yeah.
and he pulls out this gun and
Oh,
like,
God, yeah,
stand back, this might hurt somebody, and then he pulls the trigger and kills himself. And
yeah.
it was like, hey man, nice shot. What? Like, what are you doing? Like, what? So I mean, um, yeah, inspired by Arba Dwyer, but like, it's not literal. It's not
No,
literal.
no, no, no.
But I wish I would have met you. Now it's a little late. What you could have taught me, I could have saved some face. They think that your early ending was all wrong. For the most part, they're right, but look how they all got strong.
Yeah,
You know, crazy,
it is. And same
serious. That's the
with
thing. I like serious shit.
you do. You
I
do.
don't
It's like,
like. I don't like. I got myself a red guitar and I'm playing. Then I can't drive 55. Woo! No, I'm not. I'm not that guy.
no. And I'm glad you're not, Richard, because things like with Take a Picture again, that took me, down the rabbit hole and made me discover about your addictions and your alcoholism and so on, how you've been so open with it. And now I think, am I right in saying it's like 21 years you've been sober now?
I will be sober for 21 years on September 28th.
Congratulations.
I take it one day at a time.
That's amazing. And again, discovering all of this now
Yeah.
and listening to the song and then finding out the story behind it, and your story is, it just adds so much more to the music that you're creating.
Yeah. It's always there too. Obliteration is the new kind of alcohol is bad song. I'm good at lighting the fire, until it turns into a pyre. I feel it burning my lungs. I taste the blood on my tongue. Enough is never enough
Mhm.
until there's nothing. Ashes circle the drain. And now it's all
Have you? I know you.
I'm memorizing my lyrics because I'm going on tour. I'm going on tour with, guess who I'm going on tour with?
You're going on tour. I made it right. So again, just to pull back the
So
curtain,
out of the five records that I mentioned earlier, like the Land of Rape and Honey from Ministry, I'm literally going on tour with Rob Zombie,
yep,
Alice Cooper,
yep,
and Ministry.
yep. I mean, that
And
must be.
Ministry is going to be playing right after us, and I get to like literally walk off stage, rub elbows with Al Jorgensen, and then he's going to sing, songs off the Land of Rape and Honey.
I,
And that record truly was like, there was two times in my musical career. There was like before ministry and after ministry, and like, you know, Land Rape and Honey. I told Al like straight up, it changed my life, and he's like,
Mhm.
so did me, so did it did me too, brother. You know.
I've loved watching interviews with you and talking about, you know, your love of ministry and other bands and being on tour with Jane's Addiction and how you were sat at the front and watching Jane's Addiction, because you are, as well as being a musician and a very famous one at that, um,
Mhm.
you love music and you always have loved music
Fully,
and admire other bands as well, which is, you know, very
fully.
refreshing to hear.
Yeah, fully. Like, you know, going on Lollapalooza with Nine Inch Nails, you know, and playing Nine Inch Nails, and then going out every night and watching, you know, and being in the moat in between the audience and the stage. There's that little moat region where the
Yeah.
security guards are. And I would literally pay those guys, I'd pay them $20 each, and I'd say, please don't let anything happen to me. And I would have a 6-pack and a pack of cigarettes, and I would sit there and I'd watch Jane's Addiction every night. And they were just like, this kid just tipped me, you know, this kid from Nine Inch Nails just tipped me $20. You know, because the moshing, you know, they would come right
Oh
over you.
yeah. Yeah, of course. They come right over you.
So, you know, he would make sure that he'd pick me up and move me, and the security guards were cool. They picked me up and moved me. You got to get over here, kid. You know, it
I
was
mean
great.
that. I mean now, you know, now you've been 21 years almost sober as well. Getting on stage must be a different experience. Have you? But before then, let's call it the wild days. Have you ever been told any stories about what you did or experienced or things that happened that you couldn't remember at the time, and then somebody's told you,
Of
and you've gone,
course.
what's been one of the wildest that has jumped to mind that you've gone, I don't remember that, but then somebody's told you that that happened?
Um, definitely, definitely
The plane, yeah,
the plane for take a picture.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a little wild. Like, what are you doing, bro? Eh, I did what? I mean, it was basically, have you seen the movie, um,
Oh, go
uh,
on.
The Wolf of Wall Street?
Oh God, yeah, love it.
That was when I was in my drinking phase. That was
Jordan
my,
Belfort, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that was it. Except I was a musician, you know, and I'd get on planes and crazy shit would happen, and I'd wake up strapped to the fucking plane, you know, to the, you know, to the seat, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was another movie that was like, oh my God, that's my life,
Yes.
you know. But yeah, I survived. I
I'm glad.
survived.
I'm glad you did. I mean, what's been your the happiest and most memorable memories in the past 21 years, almost now, since you've been sober? What have you?
Um,
What again? What springs to mind?
Other than my kids being born
Yeah.
and my marriage to my wife,
Hmm.
and all the joy they have given me, the latest thing that's happened to me that blew my mind and made me just so happy was the Nine Inch Nails reunion with Trent Reznor.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Nine Inch Nails. When when I walked out on stage, the audience was so loud and it was so fever pitch that I literally teared up and I couldn't even sing. I was supposed to sing Eraser,
Yeah.
and I was like, I just couldn't. I just could barely could get it out of my mouth, and it was totally out of key. And then it got to the screaming part, and I'm like, snap out of it, you know. And I'm like, get out of it, stop crying, fucking face it, fucking scream, lose me, erase me. You know, that was when I felt comfortable.
Yeah.
Then like we started Wish, and we're playing Wish, and then we're playing Sin, and then we're playing Gave Up, and then Trent literally had Nine Inch Nails learn Hey Man Nice Shot, my
Yeah.
song that I wrote, and then we played Head Like a Hole, and I sang the second verse on Head Like a Hole and like nailed it and did a great job of it.
Yeah.
But my God, I mean, it was an amazing, and there was literally 30,000, easily 30,000 people there to see it. And
Wow.
everyone was talking about it. And then the next day at the airport, like I was mobbed by this big crowd of like people that were all flying away because they wanted to see the show, and they were all flying back to their respective, parts of the country. And they were like, we didn't know it was going to be that awesome with you guys walking out
Oh,
on stage, because
brilliant.
it was kept a secret. We kept it a secret the whole time, and it was just amazing. It was amazing. That was a great moment of
Yeah.
my life, for sure.
Do you ever get nervous on stage? You know, what can you remember the
Fuck
most
yeah.
nervous you've ever been on stage?
Um,
I'm presuming you're more, you don't get as nervous now. I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong,
we
but
did this thing called Hitcore, which I want to tell everybody about. Hitcore.com. It's HITKOR.com. And you can view this entire concert that we had. It was a webcast. It was one of
mm,
those live streaming events. And for the first two or three songs, I was pretty nervous.
yeah.
And I like had to snap out of it and dig down deep and get into it. And but if you want to see me a little nervous, check out that concert. But it's a really great concert. It's really great. Hitcore.com, and just go to the, part that says filter on it. And it's like we played for like maybe 2 hours. I mean, it was a great show. I mean, we had a really great time.
Oh, that's good.
And we had our friend Danny Lohner come out and play with us, and he's a good friend of ours. Yeah.
I'm just looking at the time and thinking, holy shit! I knew I could talk to you for ages. We haven't even mentioned the algorithm yet. We've got to get into that. The upcoming, like you said, eighth album that I've been listening to for over a week now and playing it, loud. That's the way to play it, obviously.
Yeah, you got to play it loud. Yeah.
Oh, of course. And 11 songs, and I'm not blowing smoke up you, and I'm always totally honest. I love every song on it, and again, thinking back to me, my hair metal 80s days and all of them, to be like, oh, is this what I like? And now, so many years older, and again, it ticks all the boxes of the stuff that I like, and
Killer.
it's really good. And you mentioned about tours as well. I'm so pleased. I looked, you're doing 4 dates in the UK next year. And one of them, as I just look at my bullet points, is on March the 12th in Manchester at Gorilla. The last time I went there was in 2016. Oh God, I watched Goblin doing Dawn of the Dead. They played the Dawn of the Dead movie, and Goblin were doing the soundtrack to it live at the time. That's
Oh
the last time it
wow,
was there.
crazy.
So I'm really hoping I can be there in Manchester on March the 12th next year,
Make it happen, brother. Make it
and
happen.
come and
And
see
and
you
and
guys.
and talk to Joe, or who's the publicist over there? Is it Emma Van Duns?
Oh, over here, who sorted this out is
Yeah,
Judith.
Judith.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell Judith that I told you get backstage passes and come out and hang out with me.
Oh, awesome. I would love
Yeah.
that, Richard. I would really love that. That would be so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, yeah. That would be great. So you're touring, like you said, you're doing this Freaks on Parade tour, and you've got loads of dates upcoming as well. New
Mhm.
album upcoming. I mean, what an exciting time for you.
Yeah,
30
it's
years
exciting.
into
I hope it.
Filter,
I
and it's
mean,
all
it's
of this.
crazy. Back in the day, like when it first happens to you, you're kind of like, oh, like this is amazing, and this day and age, I'm gonna really savor every moment of it, because I think the record's amazing,
It is,
and
yeah.
I think that it's important that it like connects with people, and I think, because I really truly believe it's a beautiful piece of work, and I'm really proud of it.
It is. Do you still have the same songwriting process as you did years ago, or do you
Pretty
approach
much.
writing songs differently now? Or
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, sometimes I like I'll find a keyboard sound that I like a
mm,
bass synth sound, and I'll write like that's how it was for Face Down. Face Down was the bass
oh
line.
yeah, yeah,
And and I just kind of, I'm alive from telling the truth. Like, oh, cool. What was that?
yeah.
And I literally I had the bass going, and I recorded the vocals before I recorded anything else, and called it a
Ah,
song.
okay.
And then when I sent it to Johnny, Johnny's like, "Hey, I've got some guitar ideas," and he wrote all these guitar parts for it, and then like mailed it back. And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I mean, it does change because technology is here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I worked with this kid Zach Monowitz who did For the Beaten and Up Against the Wall and Say It Again. He wrote the music for that, and he just put 4 or 5 parts together and like sent it to me, and then I rearranged it and put it in the computer and rearranged it and came up with the structure, and then sang all the lyrics, and then from there we re-recorded the guitars, and then I added drums last, and then we
Yeah.
mixed it. Yeah, it's tons of different approaches you can take when you're songwriting.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, it came together, and I probably have like 3 or 4 songs that I like kicked aside that I didn't want to that weren't as good, that I just kind of kicked away.
Mhm.
I could probably probably release those later as just like a kind of a odds and sods, whatever.
Yeah,
Remember that
yeah.
record from Pete Townsend?
Yeah.
Just little bits and pieces. It's not supposed to chart. It's just supposed to be, I could just release it.
Yeah. Two more things just before I don't want to overstay my welcome. Again, I'm looking at the time. Two more quick things. Film scores. I know
Yeah.
that you really love doing them and you've done quite a few.
Mm.
What have you got anything in the pipeline again at the moment with film score? Because I know you love doing them.
There's 2 things I can't really talk about that I'm working on, that I start on like October, November,
Oh,
and I'll
okay.
be able to clean those out before I go on tour in March.
Nice.
Yeah, but
Well,
they're
let's talk about those when hopefully I meet you in March next year. Then we can
you
have a quick
got it.
chat.
There you go.
Let's talk about that. And finally, there's one. I lied. I did have one question for you before we started recording, and of course, you and your brother Robert. If there was a 20-question quiz, and you were asked 20 questions all about Robert's movies, and Robert was asked 20 questions about Filter's music, who would score the most points?
I bet you Robert would,
Yeah.
because Robert really, really pays attention to everything. That he was always a huge fan of Filter. He was always like, "Yeah, I've got the new demo, man. I'm rocking out to the new Filter
Awesome.
demo."
Nice.
It's always like that. Like I'd always send him CDs and stuff of what we were doing, and he would probably score the most points. Although I do watch all of his movies, and I do try and keep up with his TV shows and everything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
He's done a lot of great work in the
Oh
last couple.
God, yeah.
Last
Yeah.
couple, yeah. So maybe it'd be even. I bet you it'd be even.
Nice. Some brotherly competitive
Yep.
stuff going on there, that's for sure. Well, for the sake of the edit, again, thank you, Richard. And like I said at the beginning of the show, you've got a new fan here in Wales. So
I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and thanks. I'm glad. Welcome to the fold, as I said
thank you.
before.
I'm glad to be in the fold. Thank you, Richard.
Killer.